What's up, guys? Today I want to talk about Nike Shox and also Nike's first Maxim. But before I do anything, I want to throw on this beautiful pair of first generation Nike Shox R4s. They came out in the year 2000 and they're amazing. So chances are if you went to a shoe store in the year 2000, you would have seen a lot of people doing this. And I was one of those people. We were rushing to the sneaker shops to try out Shox and see if they really work. It took Nike over a decade and a team of scientists to come up with the technology to make Nike Shox, and they're incredible. Right here is a pair of first generation Nike Shox. They come in a green box. You'll see behind me green boxes, orange boxes, and brown boxes. They represent the different generations of Nike Shox. So the reason why I want to talk about Shox and Nike's first Maxim is because Nike's first Maxim is, it is our nature to innovate. Grab a whiteboard, throw it up in the background. So it is our nature to innovate. That's one of the principles that Nike lives by. And the big innovation with these shoes were the shocks at the heel of the shoe. So this shoe is called an R4. The R stands for running, and the 4 is because there are 4 shock absorbers on the back of the shoe. And when these shoes came out, they retailed for $160. At the time, I couldn't afford them, but I still went to the sneaker stores just to visit them. So here's the running Shox R4. And then this pair right here is a pair of BB4s. BB stands for basketball. So oftentimes you'll see Nike come up with a new technology, a new innovation. They'll put it in a running shoe, and then they'll put it in a basketball shoe. And that's really what you see here. First generation running, first generation basketball. And then over here are a pair of crazy looking Shox. These ones are called XTs. XT is going to stand for cross training. If you look closely at this shoe, you'll see 7 shock absorbers on it. So they could have called it an XT7, but instead they just called it a Shox XT. It has this crazy looking zipper. Flightposits were coming out at around the same time. They also had the crazy looking zipper. But anyway, here you have the first running, the first basketball, and the first cross-training Shox. But Nike didn't stop there. Check out this amazing pair of running Shox. These ones are called TL. And TL stands for total, because there's shocks from heel to toe, totally all the way across. So the TLs right here, amazing shoes. And then just like we saw here with the running shoe and the basketball shoe, the TL technology worked so well that Nike did basketball Shox with total shocks. So you'll see this pair right here. These are called Shox Bombers. Top of the line basketball shoe. Again, you've got full shocks from heel all the way to toe. So these are amazing. Very early Shox, you can tell by the green boxes. A lot of times you can look at the box that the Nike came in and sort of date the shoe. But the innovation at Nike didn't stop just with the technology for Shox. Nike started mixing shocks with air. So let me get these 5 pairs of shoes out of the way, and I want to show you how Nike was able to fuse Nike Shox technology and Nike Air technology. I'm going to grab right now a pair of Shox Rides. This is the first time that Nike was able to mix the technology of Shox with visible air. And so these shoes are absolutely amazing. I remember when Nike first came out with Shox thinking, wow, they really hit on this amazing new technology. And then they mixed that technology with the previous amazing technology of Nike Air. So here you have a pair of Shox Rides, Shox in back, Air in front. In 2008, Nike came out with these Air Max Dream shoes. They're called Air Max because they have a visible air window on the back, and then they have shocks up in the front. So here's sort of the opposite of this. Still mixing the air and the Shox technology, but here the shocks are in the front. And then over here, we have a pair of Shox Experiences. And if you look really closely at the shocks on this shoe, you'll see that the shocks actually have air in them. So Shox, air, air, shocks, and air in the shocks. These are called experiences, and they are an amazing experience to wear. Nike Shox are supposed to absorb the pound of jumping, but also spring back and make you faster or jump higher. And people were very skeptical of whether or not they would do that. But check this out. This is a pair of first generation Shox BB4s, and they were worn by Vince Carter in the Olympic Games. You can see right here, first generation BB4s. And Vince Carter did the most amazing slam dunk in the history of basketball wearing these shoes. He jumped over somebody that was 7 feet tall. And basically Vince was able to prove to the world that Shox really work. Vince Carter was the first Nike athlete that wore Shox. He had a signature line of them for the first few years of Shox. But the most important thing he did was show everyone all over the world in the Olympic Games that Shox really do work. Go on eBay, search for ShoeZeum Shox, it's spelled S-H-O-X, and you'll be able to see all the Shox in the collection.